In.
Yeah, we'll get started. We're in.
Yeah, yeah, we don't want to waffle. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Enjoying this
Good.
little bit of weather we're having.
Yeah, it was cold here this morning.
Yeah, it's only just warmed up here today, but the weekend itself was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it makes you a lot happier, doesn't it? We like happy Stuarts.
Yeah, yeah. The weather does make it a little bit of a better weekend, doesn't it? That's you know, I don't particularly like it when it's hot. I'm not a sunny person, but I like nice weather.
Yeah.
It makes everybody else feel
Something
better.
very strange happened to me at the weekend, actually, which leads on to what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
So Kippy's had a buster collar on, and I had the rubber tire ones around him. And I was camping next to somebody, and he was sunbathing, didn't think much of it. And it was who I was camping with. She said to me, "Oh, mind thing doesn't get hot," and like said it in a really nice way. And I was like, "God, you know what? I haven't even thought about it."
Yeah.
And I took it off, and a patch where the sun had been shining was red hot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did. I took it off him for a little while, and obviously he's fine. But we wanted to talk about equipment today, didn't we?
Yeah.
And the health and safety of it. So that just kind of falls in quite nicely. That sometimes we don't even consider things that we should be considering, really.
Yeah, there's little bits and pieces. One of the things that's always concerned me, well, not concerned me, but I always think about is like the weave bases on the hot ground, and I know most dogs are going through it quite quickly and stuff, so that the chances of anything happening is very slim. But it just concerns me sometimes. You look at it, you go how hot it is, and then how hot the surface gets on certain pieces of equipment. And
yeah, and you say, okay, some dogs go through quickly enough, and some dogs don't go through quickly enough for them not to touch, but it only takes a split second, doesn't it? And it may not necessarily burn a pad or anything like that, because the contact isn't there for too long. But what it does do potentially, and we've got no proof of this or anything, is it could actually put that piece of it could actually put the dog off of that piece of equipment as well,
because they don't know why or where it's come from. They just know that they've had a little bit of a shock from it, and they don't know whether that's the equipment or what, do they? So they get a little bit concerned about going through there again. So it may affect their weaving patterns.
Yeah, and I guess the problem from a temperature point of view is going to be worse in short grass. So if the grass is really, really short and it's just sitting on like a cricket pitch, then that's going to be difficult as well.
Yeah. But then you have the concerns then with the shorter grass anyway. I always find with the shorter grass, the ground itself is slippier anyway.
Yes, yeah, I know. It's never happened to me, but I have heard people say that they get cut, like grass cuts in pads and that sort of thing on short grass. Well,
grass, so potentially, but I mean, we've only had a couple of days of sunny weather, haven't we? So
let's not grumble about it.
Let's not grumble about the sunny weather straight away. But yeah, I mean, it does become a bit of a thing, isn't it? All the things that we have to consider at shows, with the weather and the surface and now the equipment and stuff like that. We're picking and choosing different shows. Some people are even picking what shows they go to depending on what equipment is at those shows.
And I think that's based on their preference from a health and safety point of view as well. I mean,
I think mostly
quite a hot topic on Agility Net at the moment, isn't it? Equipment.
Equipment.
And I think it's a really good thing that people are pushing to get the best quality equipment out there.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
It does highlight, I think one of the things that I've noticed more over the last few weeks is when tunnels become tired. That tends to, if you've got like a show that hasn't got tire, I'm going to call them tired tunnels rather.
Tired tunnels,
you can really notice it, and I've really started to notice, and I really don't want to put any show organizer down. Show organizers work really, really hard, but you do notice, and people are pushing all the time to improve the quality of our equipment, and that can only be a good thing for our dog's point of view, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for that sort of stuff. For me, the safer the equipment, the less chances of any injuries or accidents happening has got to be safer. And I think sometimes though, when things do start to change, obviously we've seen it before. Even when it was weave, the weaves were changed, the width of the weaves were changed from when I first started. Jump heights have changed, and when things like that do change and things look slightly different, there are, we all sort of step back and go, oh, I'm not sure about this. For now, we have to give it a chance, and give everybody a chance to sort of
the changes that are
occurring,
but the changes that are occurring at the moment are very, very subtle, in the fact that the equipment's becoming, more lightweight, from a pole point of view. I think that's really good change.
I think so too.
You've got, I run tiny dogs, you run big dogs, that their bones, I mean, have you ever hit yourself on a piece of wood on your shin bone, and it sends that horrible fizzy thing down, doesn't it?
It's the same as like when we're setting up equipment. I know when I'm setting up for training and bits and pieces with the jump poles and the carrying the wings and stuff, when you drop one of those or pinch one between your fingers or or whatever, it does, it stings a little bit. And the jump poles, when it's cold, you get your finger trapped between one when you're carrying 2 or 3 of them together. So if we're feeling that, then surely your dog, clipping its toes across the top of a jump pole or on a weave basis, and it must be painful to them too.
And our dogs are so honest, aren't they? So honest. I mean, and often people talk about changes in behavior, and I don't want to go on to this too much because I think we've done this to the death, but sometimes you'll notice changes in your dog's behavior, where they're not running as they were. I know Hippie he was poorly 10 days ago now. He wouldn't run. He refused to run. I went to put him over the first jump and he didn't go, and I was like, what's wrong with him? And he can get a little bit environmental shutdown, so he came out the weaves and just trotted along next to me. But unfortunately that was just it was a abscess on his anal gland, so but it took me a couple of hours to work out what it was. Sometimes we get more subtle changes of behavior, and we, some people, even including us, might think, oh, we'll just push through it, or and you don't know whether something like that, just having a pole down has had that effect on your dog or on other people's dogs.
So like you say, if it comes to things like, and even contact surfaces and stuff like, when they're running on dog walks and A-frames, and we have all of our contacts now, aren't they? On all of our shows now are rubber. We have that throughout, but the different thicknesses and the different
you've frozen. You're going to have to repeat what you said, Stuart. Sorry, you froze.
All right, okay. So I'm just saying, like, our contact equipment that we have now, most of our shows now are rubber coated, aren't they? So I don't know anybody now anywhere that's got anything that's not rubber coated contacts. Even if it's wooden and rubber, it's still rubber coated. But just the difference in that, the subtle differences in the surfaces that they're running across. Some dog will have nice thick rubber surface, soft rubber. Some are a little bit harder, some are a little bit rough, some are smooth. So there's so many different things that they have to deal with on the contacts, as well as the jumps and everything else that they have to deal with. So even that makes a massive difference. So if we can get almost like a regulation, almost, where the surfaces have to be a certain thickness or a certain, feel to it, if that makes sense. Because I know the difference. My dogs know the difference when they're running on certain equipment. I can tell you the difference, confidence-wise.
Yes, definitely. Particularly with a more experienced dog, I think they notice. I mean, they don't give us as many strange behaviours, but it is something that our inexperienced dogs have to learn to deal with. Our dogs cope with so much, really, don't they? But you mentioned about rubber coating on the contact equipment, and obviously that's a good thing because it's softer and it's less damaging and less impact for our dogs. But I wonder whether it's more and this is only because of what happened with me with his buster collar. Well, I wonder whether it's more contains the heat more. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. I
I'm
mean,
not
it could do. I mean, I don't know. I suppose that also could be color dependent as well, couldn't it?
sure. Yeah.
You know, depends on the
And
color.
when does it stop, Stuart? Let's face it. You
Exactly.
know, we want our dogs to be as safe as we possibly can,
And we
but
just need,
where does it stop?
yeah, we need to just, and we just need the equipment suppliers really to be pushing forward as they are, quite thankfully, with with looking at the safety of things and how things work, and we want them to be looking at the different trends, don't we, and how dogs react to certain things. I do wonder how much testing goes on with certain equipment before it gets released.
Maybe we need a contact supplier or an
Yeah,
equipment
equipment supplier. So how much, when a new dog walk surface is coming out, or a new jump pole, or a new jump wing, or whatever, how many times is one of those jumps or one of those dog walks put in front of a dog first before it's actually released as a
yeah,
thing?
yeah. They must. I don't know. I
Because some of the
really don't.
equipment seems to come out quite quickly, doesn't it? It's like new equipment straight away. Whereas you've never really seen it before, and then you think, well, where did that come from? How has anybody been testing that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like my dogs had an issue on the British Agility Championship tunnels because I hadn't trained on non-slip tunnels
Okay.
before, and there was a lot of dogs that were having problems with that. So, not problems. Problems is the wrong word to say, but weren't used to
Weren't
running
used
on
to
that
it. Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
surface, you know. So,
Yeah.
as you say, and it's not a bad thing.
No,
It's a good thing, but I think nothing's going to be perfect.
no.
Do you know what I mean? And everybody's striving to do their best. So if an equipment supplier comes out with a new piece of equipment, how much testing can they afford to do, really?
Yeah,
It'd
exactly.
be
Yeah.
interesting if anyone is watching
Yeah.
and listening, if there is an equipment supplier out there, whether they'd like to come and have a chat with us, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because it's interesting to know, because like I say, we want everything to be as safe as possible, but also on the other flip side of that, we don't want somebody to think something is safe and then put it straight onto a course on a Saturday morning and then all of a sudden we find out that actually it's not as safe as they thought it was.
Mm.
That's the other thing. But I mean, we've had loads of changes, even in the last sort of 5 years, really, on equipment. Breakaway tires, soft long jumps, soft
I
wall.
think the breakaway tires are amazing.
Yeah, so
You
much better.
don't always see the soft long jumps,
No.
but and you've got to think of the cost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't got the safest equipment available, I believe, at my club that I train in because I can't afford to replace it all. It's as simple
Yeah,
as
I
that.
mean that's the other part, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And if you think some of our shows have got like 8, 9, or 10 rings on, and that's an awful lot of money. If the say I haven't looked at it, but if the safest available is the most expensive available, then that makes it harder.
Yeah,
It's probably competitive. I don't know. I'm talking out my depth there now because I haven't compared it all, but you've got to consider that as well. And like I said, our show organisers are under an awful lot of pressure, and we're all doing our best to try and get it right, aren't we?
and most of the organisations, be it Kennel Club UKA or whoever else is out there doing their thing, they've got regulations as well. So the equipment, as long as the equipment fits in their criteria, then it is what it is. We have to, we go by what they say. So we're driven also by the organisation of everything to say what is suitable and what isn't suitable. And as long as it fits within their parameters, then it is, then it's down to us, I suppose, to make that choice of whether we run on that equipment or not.
Yeah, exactly that. And
I don't think we need to keep going on and on on the social media about, there's so many things on their social media about this equipment supplier, that equipment supplier. I ran at this show this weekend, that show this weekend, and people complaining about the equipment or not complaining about the equipment, whichever way around it is. I think sometimes you just have to get on.
What else would we have to read on a Monday morning?
Yeah. But no, we all have a choice. You know, we all have these choices, whether to run that on that equipment, whether to go enter that show, whether to run that course or not. So, you know, having that and then coming back to on a Sunday night and getting onto Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and then bitching and moaning about what it was, you know. And also there's, like we spoke before, there's procedures you can follow if you're that bothered about it.
But the procedure needs to be done while you're at the show, doesn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah, you know.
I hate keyboard warriors, you know. Everybody is doing their best. Show organisers are doing their best. Manufacturers are doing their best.
Yeah.
Those people that are striving.
And most show organisers and, you know, and equipment suppliers, they're all there at the event. And I'm pretty convinced if you turn around to them and said, is there a chance I can just have a quick chat? I know they're going to be busy, and I know that, you know, there's a lot going on, but I'd much prefer you to do that than go home and tell a million people on Facebook about it.
Yeah, because then people are tired and grumpy and all the rest of it. And I've seen judges, you know, change equipment. I've seen people, you know, ring managers. I've seen people raise the issues, and everybody, I think, is more open to that sort of thing. Like you say, the worst thing that you could possibly do in that scenario is to say, oh, I had a bad tunnel and I don't want to go and do that again, or I did this, I did that, or this person did this. And I think it's really bad, you know. But like I say, what else would we have to read?
yeah, what else have we got to do on a Sunday night? Absolutely. But yeah, there just seemed to be a little bit on the with the social media stuff, a little bit too much at the moment. The equipment, they seem to be bouncing the equipment around everywhere, and I feel sometimes we're going to lose things.
I think we're going to lose decent people, Stuart.
Yeah, we're going to lose decent equipment suppliers. We're going to lose decent shows, you know,
and people that are trying to support, you know, they're trying to support the health and safety of the sport, the best possible way that they can, and then get slated for it. You know, it's not good.
And to have a comment, I mean, I've had a conversation with a few people over the last few weekends, even, you know, experienced trainers, experienced judges and whatever. And we've sat and chatted about certain things. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we haven't argued about anything at all. And just,
no, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, aren't they? But there are ways of delivering that opinion. And we've got on the bandwagon now, Stuart.
Yeah, we've jumped on it now. That's it. It's turned into a let's ban social media. We don't need it.
No, we don't.
Nobody should be allowed to go on social media on a Sunday night ever.
We started off with bad weather. The weather's too hot, and we've had 2 days of hot weather.
2 days of hot weather, and it's too hot already. We're not allowed to compete when it's too hot.
I think from an equipment point of view, any advances are good advances. I really do.
And if there's new things popping up, I think people have to give it a chance.
Yeah.
Can't just go to 1 or 2 shows and see certain things happening and then assume that that's going to happen forever. That's what I think. So give it a chance.
And also, if there's any equipment manufacturers out there that would like to come and have a chat with us and give their opinions, and maybe shed some light on how they bring a new piece of equipment out.
How they introduce it, it's tested anywhere, is it, you know, I'm assuming it must be tested with a certain amount of dogs at some point. It must be able to do that, you know, because I think most equipment suppliers now are from a dog sports background anyway, so they probably must have their own dogs and their own team, so they must be able to test it somehow. Yeah,
excellent, good,
perfect.
We'll speak to you soon.
I think we covered that. I think we covered that one really well.
I do as well.
Okay, well, we'll see you all soon. That was good.
See you later. Bye, Stuart.
Bye.